I sense a trap.
Hello, everyone. My name is Saksham Pruthi, and you're listening to Just Like Me, a podcast where six straight brown dudes attempt to unpack trending topics in the issues in the world around us. Are we qualified to talk about these subjects? More than ever, debatable. But will we do so in a funny and engaging enough way that it won't matter? Here's hoping. Now let's hear from all the other amazing hosts we have on this podcast.
Hi, my name's Avnish, and honestly, we're going to piss off a lot of people today.
Hey everyone, I'm Srinath Gopalakrishnan. Sorry, I'm Yush Narayan. I'm just a silly goose.
Hey guys, I'm Saksham Gupta.
And now it's time for the questions to be asked in today's episode of our podcast. So today's topic that we're going to be talking about is going to be about centered around Indian politics, which based on the Hassan Minhaj episode on Indian politics, I mean, we don't have this big of a, outreach or viewership, but I feel like we're definitely going to get roasted on. But it's fine. It's fine. You know,
us and our 30 viewers and Pruti's parents and Gupta's parents, we're going to piss somebody off. Rajni Shankar, holler at me, bro.
But you know what? Hopefully someone says something really stupid and, it goes viral. And, even if it's for the bad reasons, all publicity is good publicity, right? So
Hell yeah.
I'm going to start things off by just saying that I'm really actually excited about this episode. I wouldn't say I'm exactly like a expert on Indian politics per se, but especially given everything that's happening in India with the unfortunate spike in COVID cases, the unfortunate effects of the cyclone that's hitting India, the unfortunate you guys hear about the white fungus and the black fungus that is killing people in India.
I
have no idea what this is. This is
new. A black fungus outbreak throughout India.
I think it's actually in Bihar. I'm not sure, Amnish.
No, of course it's in Bihar.
If something bad happens, of course it has to be in that one part of North India. I swear to God.
I could be wrong though.
No, Pruthi, it's all over. It's like in,
okay. I guess maybe I don't know. I read something about Bihar, but yeah, it's all over again, I guess. And are the already existing, Hindu-Muslim relations and all these other issues that have been present over time. It's really difficult for everyone in India. We just want to extend our sympathies to everyone who's going through all this stuff like that. And Indian politics isn't, I wouldn't say the root cause for all of these, but it's definitely a factor in the way that a lot of these issues were handled. And that's why we wanted to talk about it. So I'm going to kick things off by just giving it to Gupta, and he can kind of start off. And then after that, we'll just react and bounce off each other. All right, Gupta, floor's yours.
So no, huge disclosure. I'm definitely not an expert in any of this. I'm just been reading a lot and about all this because it really interests me. So based on that, I've come up with my opinions. And if you have anything that you'd like to argue with me, feel free to reach out. Don't be upset that I say something, because I'm always open to change my mind as well. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to a lot of these topics, is that you should keep an open mind and definitely think about what somebody else has to say. So I think that the first thing that I'd really like to kick off with is that when it comes to leftist issues or rightist issues, we've kind of created such a political divide in our country that it's kind of impossible to get a conversation going, especially amongst people who are technically on opposite sides of the spectrum, whatever the fuck that means. But I think that that's the biggest thing that I feel we need to kind of change going forward, is kind of listening to other people and not saying that, oh, this guy thinks this way, he's stupid, he doesn't know anything. Everyone has their own thought process and opinions, and that really needs to be respected in today's day and age. So I think that that's the first biggest thing that we should really focus on. Is just,
real quick, Gupta. So when you say leftist and rightist, people maybe American listeners might be thinking Democratic and Republican, but that's not the name of the parties in India. So if you can kind of quickly explain BJP or the other parties in India when we talk about left and right, I think that'll be.
There is no left in India per se, just as there is no left in America. Democrats, sure, you might say that they're left, but again, they're centrists. But when it comes to India, there's no such thing as a leftist or a rightist party. Over there, it's a much larger political spectrum. The BJP is not an ultra Hindu, conservative party. That's another party called the RSS. But in India,
Yeah, it's like one very large party that to make up a lot of parties that really represent anything ranging from right of center to super far right.
yeah. So I guess the one party you can kind of say is kind of left is the Aap party, which is
Aam
run
Aadmi
by
Party.
Aam Aadmi
Is it?
Party. Yeah, it's run by
Yeah.
Arvind Kejriwal, and it's only has one state, which shows how like dumb the Indian people like think their stances are on Indian politics. Like op is ridiculously stupid. It's run by like apparently a really educated guy, but their ideas on economics and like political issues, social issues, it just doesn't line up with what's possible in today's day and age. So that's like the left party as of today. And I'm pretty sure there are plenty of other ones, but as of right now, from what I know, from where I grew up or from where I am in India, like the op is the left and BJP is like centrist, and then RSS is like a lot more right based. But when it comes to now the fact that we're looking at uh, the BJP versus the other parties in India, there are two main political divides. Obviously, there's the Indian National Congress, and then there's the BJP. Right? Those are the two biggest parties that have been in India for the last howsoever many years since I guess 1920s. Even when the British were ruling, the INC was like very much in control. Um, but now there's been like a very big change in terms of political identity in India because they've kind of realized that the Indian National Congress really did nothing for India. They were very more interested in their own vested interests, and they kind of led to a lot of riots. Anyone who gives the example of like Modi and the riots that happened in Gujarat during his time there, they fail to kind of understand the fact that when it comes to the Modi, like he obviously did have a huge issue when it came to that. He did not address the thousands of people in his constituency that look like we need to calm down and relax. He didn't do that. But at the same time, if you look at the history of India, not too many political leaders have done that. Sonia Gandhi, for example, the leader of the INC, was shot and killed because of the fact that she did not address what was going on in Punjab and stuff like that. So,
Isn't that Indira Gandhi?
oh, sorry, Indra, not Sonia. Sonia is alive,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I think you
Rajiv
mean
Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi, actually. Just kidding.
Oh,
Congrats,
also,
Preeti.
like another interesting thing. So a lot of people think that Mahatma Gandhi and like Indira Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi are related. It's not true. Like they're not related at all. They changed their last name to match up with Gandhi so they would get more notoriety in the country as well. So
Real quick, Avnish, you had raising your hand.
Oh, I feel like we might have gone too deep without like giving like higher order understanding of or like some painting the picture for some broader themes of like what what are the current set of issues in Indian politics and how they came to be. Gupta, do you want to like start there instead, as opposed
actually,
to
I'm not
diving deep
sure.
into
Sorry. Okay.
going
So
into?
I'm in like right now. There's a lot of police cars. I don't know why.
He's in Baltimore. That's enough.
No, but Gupta, on our end, it's actually perfectly fine. Your mic is taking care of it.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, there were like a lot of police cars and sirens going on in the background, but forget about that. But I guess that the first biggest issue that we've seen is like I feel that we should talk about is Kashmir, right? Like
Oh wait, I wanna go even higher than that for a second. Okay.
What's higher than
I
that?
mean, as in basic.
No, like
in general.
we have to state some things that seem very obvious to us, but I know for a fact that some of our listeners have no knowledge of India or Indian politics.
I think like at least for me, like
Yeah.
some of the higher issues are like India-Pakistan relationships, and that kind of digs deeper into like the religious relationships between Hindus and Muslims.
Okay, so
you can also say the
relationships is a good one.
divides with among the states in India. How there's kind of like also a division between like north and south. Yeah, I mean there's just a lot of divisions I
Yeah,
guess.
there's
Yeah. So I'd want to say that like a lot of the divisions in India start with the fact that in an like through an imperialist when under imperialism through the British, Indians were generally poor to begin with, right? But that
During the British time or
the,
prior to that?
No, we were balling,
during
dude. We were,
no, that's not
as
true.
a
That's not
country, we
true.
were
Yeah,
You
it's
look at
balling.
you look at no
true.
no no you look at the
Indian
average Indian. Sorry,
GDP
no. You look at the wealth of the average.
No.
Indian.
If you look prior to the British Empire, even during the Mughal times, and then like Maratha Empire, the average standard of living was a lot higher. Actually, in like indicative, like been shown in initial records that.
Okay, but I'm talking on the
when
global scale.
No, I know. Even on global scale, when the British came to India the first time, the British were considered barbarians. Like they were seen at such low levels in comparison to the actual regular Indian citizen. They were considered like at a very poor level. It was after that, after like a lot of plundering and looting, that the Indian society became low. Like the reason that the British were able to divide so easily was because the like regular citizen was like content with life. If you give someone the right amount of food, water, and a shelter, they'll be fine, right? They won't care.
No.
So
I understand what you're saying. Yes, you're right to say that. Yes, if I look at everybody around me and everybody has relatively speaking the same quality of life, then by all metrics, I am a wealthy person,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
on aggregate a wealthy person. Yeah,
Maslow's
but
hierarchy of needs.
yeah, exactly.
okay, yes, psychology, I guess. I don't know where that came from, or economics. Okay, but like if you look at it as a whole, Indians are generally very poor, and their wealth mobility is also not great. So a lot of people live below the 7 rupee per day barrier, which for listeners that's like 10 cents
$7.
roughly. No, $7 or 7 rupees.
Yeah, it's not 7 rupees.
Okay, $7. Okay, but just $7 a day. Sure, there's something to be said about the price of goods overall. So $7 can get you a lot farther in terms of food, but you're still not going to have great mobility if a lot of people are living below the $7 per day minimum. Okay, and the next thing is India. India is a country that is like, I guess would the correct term to you guys be like entering like the first world, but not quite in the first world? Is that like safe
The
to
way
say?
I like to describe it is that India is living in multiple ages at once. Parts of India
Okay.
live in the 1600s, parts of India live in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s.
1600s is a while back, bro. I think
1600, bro. Actually, people live in the Stone Age in India. Like, if you think about it, like the
I
Sentinel
mean, some
Island.
people have to, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just like India is very
Stone Age, I
diverse.
mean, like they don't even like speak like any language. And like, were they even? They weren't even verbal in the Stone Ages.
Yeah, they were. They used to speak. They had their own
Oh
language.
no, they probably had
It was-
some language, Pruthi.
It
They
was a
probably
lot
had
more
some language.
primitive. It
This was
a
Okay,
lot
we're getting
more
off topic.
primitive, but it was still there.
Yeah. Okay, but then the next thing is that
Yeah, shit, where were we?
well, when imperialism happens, okay, this is like a broad stance. When imperialism happens and the British can come in and create such a large wealth divide between themselves and others, and then bring some of India past that wealth divide, right? You end up with a series of a lot of otherisms. Okay, so like otherisms can manifest themselves as like North India versus South India, Hindus versus Muslims. Literally anything with regards that can say, I hang out with this group of people, you hang out with that group of people. I have more than you, you have more than me. Therefore, I am better than you, or you are better than me. You know.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with like the caste system, which is something that at least amongst like the greater educated 300 million Indians who I guess we would sort of categorically fall into, you won't see as much, but will definitely fall into the lower one other billion people. Yeah, and so your caste definitely does dictate a lot of your wealth mobility as well, because people are very strict. People used to be very strict about marrying into their caste. So if you're in the lowest caste,
that was
then,
like a very big outcome of like the British rule in India. It wasn't that strict prior to the British like colonization.
It was definitely reinforced a little bit because when to be a colonial power, you have to divide and conquer, right? So the
And that's
British,
what
Yeah.
they did very well.
they literally found like I said, like religious divides, geographical divides, like physical
Yeah.
appearance like, divides, like, and
And that's
yeah,
the other
it's
thing you also have to consider is that prior to the British, India was divided up into thousands of kingdoms, right? The main
Yeah.
two being the Maratha and the Mughal, which is like Hindus versus Muslims at the end of the day. So, but under both of those kingdoms, you also have to
Yeah.
consider the fact that
Essentially.
in the Mughal Empire, a lot of the army captains were actually Hindu. A lot of the army generals were also Hindu. In the Maratha Empire, there were a lot of Mughals, there were a lot of Muslim
Muslim.
leaders that were like in higher places of government and stuff. So they had to live, like they had to realize that you have to live cohesively to survive as a country. Now, when you come into the British era, what happened is now you have a country that doesn't understand that, that's ruling over like now millions of people who genuinely don't know any part of their own history, and they're creating more and more of a divide, which leads us to today. And then you introduce the
You also
religions.
talk about the partition. I mean, like, it's important to talk about like the historical divide.
Yeah.
But
We should
people
say
talk
So
like a
about
sentence or two about
when
the partition.
Lord Mountbatten, like he was the viceroy of India back in 1947, when he was asked that, yo, we need to split up India into Islam and a secular nation, which is India, and then like a Buddhist nation, which would have been
Sri
Burma.
Lanka or
No,
Burma.
Burma,
Yeah.
Nepal.
Nepal's not Buddhist, it's Hindu. Nepal was also not part of the British Empire. Nepal was an independent country. But Sri Lanka was considered also a secular nation. But when it
Okay.
came to like that Mountbatten, he was kind of a bitch. So he drew a line and he never exactly even specified how big the line was. Cause like, you know, when you draw on a map, the pen, like it has its own width. So
Mm.
How
they
fine
never, huh?
the fineness of the pen.
Yeah, the fineness of the pen was not like fine enough to exactly distinguish what the geographic marking of the boundary was. So there was like a lot of issue there that caused the first war in 1947 amongst Pakistan and India.
India.
And then after that, it like led to a lot more issues, right? Now coming into, I think that like there's a like going past that kind of history is like interesting, but it doesn't really reflect as much on the current situation today's day and age as the last 70 years do after independence as to what's happened, especially when it comes to like, for example, Kashmir, right? So
Mhm.
if we delve a bit into the history of Kashmir, what happened during that time? The first thing was that after partition happened, there were a lot of independent states throughout India and Pakistan that generally did not know which side they would choose. For example, Hyderabad was a huge state in the middle of India, which did not join India until 1948 or 49, I think. Kashmir was also one of those constituencies which was ruled by a large Hindu king and had a very diverse group of people amongst them. It was never a Muslim majority until the 1980s. There was a lot of diversity in Kashmir from the start. So then, after Kashmir decided that it would go to India, it was put under a provincial status of a state that is not going to be like a part of India until they figure some kinks and stuff out. But as in like what happens in a democracy, right? Like every single president just puts it off to the next president. In this case, in India, it would be the prime minister puts it off to the next prime minister, right? And this kind of continued. So nobody really wanted to tackle the issue. So Kashmir was left in that special status, and in doing so, it kind of let like a power struggle happen in Kashmir as well.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to
if
think of
you
like, or I'm trying to think of like an American equivalent of like the Kashmir issue that like American governor or American presidents is an issue that's been passed on from like one presidency to the next. We're like, oh, we're going to address it, but they never do. I think like, I don't know, like
I don't think there's an issue that you could really say for the Americans that relatively
Gun laws, but not
speaking
really.
equates.
I don't
dude,
know.
it's China. China is like a huge.
Not really, because it's no, No, I'll tell you exactly why. There's an exact reason for this, I think, and it's for this reason. It's because America believes in the, okay, not that they always follow it, right? But it's baked into the government, relatively speaking, that there's a separation of church and state. In India, Indians don't really like the idea of secularism because secularism in the past has been used to generate voting blocks and essentially pin one minority against another minority, where people are made wide sweeping promises for what if this person wins an election, but you have to vote all together with the Muslims, or you have to vote all together with the Hindus, or like it could even be factions of the Muslims or factions of the Hindus with
Isn't
factions
that
of the
still kind of
Christians,
happening
you know.
though?
And so Indians, I mean, it's no, sorry, it still happens there. Over here, you did like, even, but like it's not nearly as big as it is over there. Over there, it can really change elections.
Yeah,
So
I think like
also, I'd like to
I
clarify
can
something as
inter-
well. When I said like
Okay.
Kashmir was never like 100% Muslim, I meant like a very specific part of Kashmir, which is Jammu and like Ladakh. So those places were a lot like they had like a much larger Hindu population and Buddhist population in the 1940s. Um, but when it came to the Kashmir Valley, like the actual valley, that was majority Muslim. I just want to clarify that. Sorry, but
Yeah.
um, when it comes to like America and like the issues that have been passed down from president to president, I genuinely think that one of the big issues that was passed down from president to president after like FDR, I guess, is the issue of like social security, right? Like nobody has really figured out what to do with social security. We have a much like a rapidly increasing older population, and that's just something that nobody tackles because it's not like that sexy of a topic or whatever.
like
But
education or healthcare. You're right.
yeah, exactly. And geriatric populations, nobody wants to talk
Oh
about.
no, nobody touches it because if anybody screwed with Social Security, they would lose their next election.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think
the same,
similar thing for
what I'm saying.
Kashmir.
It's
Like
the same thing for Kashmir.
there,
Well,
it's just
but like, you see Modi won a second election and said, "Hey, I'm gonna take the knife to J&K and like make sure that this issue is settled once and for all. They can no longer be an independent state the way that they were before. They can
okay.
no
Okay,
longer be just holding on to
we're
resources."
jumping right now. So we're doing a good job of covering the historical aspect of the partition and the tensions in India and Pakistan, and we're doing a good time with that. Let's slowly transition into
So
Yeah, sorry.
modern India.
back to
No, you're good.
like
You're good.
back to the history component. Sorry. So this is like kind of a story. It's kind of a narrative style, but when Kashmir was deciding between going to India or Pakistan, Kashmir was a majority Muslim. Like the Kashmir Valley itself was a majority Muslim population, but the Maharaj of Kashmir was Hindu. Jammu and Kashmir, they were grouped together. And if you look at Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh all put together, the population was very, very like diverse. It was not 100% Muslim, 100% Hindu, 100% Buddhist, but there was a large population of Buddhists as well as Hindus prior to the 1980s. Then Kashmir joined India, and there was a huge, again, another war that happened, and it happened twice: 1970s, 1947, 1970 something, and then 1999. Again, there was a huge war between Pakistan and India over the status of Kashmir, which, by international law and by international recognition, has always been a part of India regardless of whatever you say. Even when the Chinese came in and they caused the Sino-Indian War, they took parts of Kashmir. It was again a power struggle. It was all to show who has a bigger penis at the end of the day, like for these wars. So when it came to now, when we look forward, India obviously showed that, yo, look, we're a superpower. You guys cannot just take our land and get away with it. That led to a lot of issues amongst the Muslim diaspora throughout the rest of the world. Looking in the 1980s now, Kashmir Valley had a large percentage of Hindus there. There was literally an apartheid that happened, and if you talk to anyone who's a Kashmir Pandit, they had to leave that area because they were all getting killed off. There were huge riots. There were literally people, like thousands of people that were getting killed. And this is not a talked about part of history because there was literally a massacre. It was like kind of um, a genocide almost, you can say. If you
Um,
don't read about
okay.
this, you don't understand the actual situation of what it is today. Kashmir Valley today is 96% populated by Muslims. Prior to this, it was not the case. It was very diverse. There was a major genocide that occurred during that time, and millions or thousands of people were killed or forced to leave their land. Now, when it comes to present day, what Modi did, obviously he could have done better, where he removed the provincial status, but it was kind of like a band-aid that needed to be ripped off, where Kashmir is included into the rest of India and it isn't seen as another state. The reason that the military could not intervene during the 1980s was because of that special status of its own state, right? That led to a massive genocide, and there was no regulation. There was nothing that could have prevented them from stopping that. Now, when we look in today's day and age, there's obviously like a massive majority Muslim population, and you understand that, like, yeah, of course, they're Muslims, so they want to be a part of their own people and part of their own land. But that's what Modi wants to kind of show, that like, look, we're not letting this land, which has been historically ours, go based off of no reasoning, just based off the demographics. Uttar Pradesh has a much higher population of Muslims. Why are they not striving for freedom? It's because they're able to integrate within the society. That's what Modi was trying to do in this case.
I think
And
so. Wait, I also want to add like one thing I learned recently is like like another big component of this situation is that Kashmir has access to like huge natural resources that
yeah,
both countries are in dire need of because like especially with India because how globalized it's become and just been chewing through our natural resources. Kashmir has like access to like especially water that's been frozen and like losing it to Pakistan or Pakistan losing it to India would mean like yeah, like
well,
the
I mean,
ceiling for
to be
how
fair as
big the
well,
income would be low. Hmm?
Kashmir major source of income isn't even their mining or any of those operations. Kashmir's major source of income is tourism, and
Hmm.
like a very big Hindu site is also there. Um, that uh, what's the name? Shri something. Um,
Okay, we can get back to it.
but
But
anyway,
yeah.
so when it comes to the incorporation of Kashmir into India, it's very important that you realize the history is very indicative as to what needs to happen. And Modi took that step forward. And obviously, it was not done in the right way. It could have been done in a better method where you slowly integrate. But he said that, dude, like, fuck it. I'm just going to rip off the band aid now, remove any special status of this state, and we're going to integrate it into society so that they can become part of India and they can officially like work with the rest of the country. That was the biggest thing that they did. Now, when it comes to the Western portrayal of this, it was that, oh, Kashmir was its own special state and Modi, without any like jurisdiction, without any like kind of authority, he went in there and then took it from them and left them to starve. I think that this is the kind of narrative that the Western media really plays, especially like liberal media outlets like New York Times and stuff. It leads to a very large political divide. It's kind of misinformation almost, to the point where you're not really showing what's actually happening. But
See,
yeah,
so I mean like obviously my understanding of the situation isn't as high as yours, but I think there have been so many other examples throughout even like Modi's time in like any positions of power where he's not taken the he doesn't like acknowledge all the stakeholders that are involved and how they're going to react and he kind of just looks out for the Hindu majority, whether
so
that's
what
like
would be like an example of that?
so like I feel like the situation in Gujarat, like when he was a governor of I don't know the exact term, but when he was the leader of
Yeah,
Gujarat, he did
CM.
not take that. And then
Yeah.
also the I don't know remember what Amnish is a little more educated about this than I was, but there was a holy site. I don't know exact locations. Holy site that was
Ayodhya.
in
Yeah,
Ayodhya.
you should explain.
So okay, so when it comes to those
I
things,
think
can
instead of
answer-
niche.
No. I think Gupta can take this one.
Explain it.
Okay.
First,
No,
So
give like a
when it comes to
explanation.
the riots in Gujarat that happened, of course that was like
Okay.
obviously very bad. Like that was like extremely devastating. Thousands of people died. But the thing was that first of all, it was started by the burning of a like a missionary bus ride of Hindus by Muslim people. So I'm not justifying that should allow for like Hindus to start killing Muslims. That just puts them at the equal level. And there were a lot more Muslims that got killed at the end of the day as well, because as a result of this. But it did start off with like a huge bus of Hindus getting killed on their way to a religious site, right? So that was the one big thing that really instigated that. The next thing was that there was no regulation by the government during that time, which prevented riots from starting. But when these riots do start, it's literally what the fuck can you do? Because there are like millions of people in these states that will pick up their like shovels and stuff and start killing each other. So it's really hard to exactly pinpoint who's at fault here, pinpoint uh, what could have been done better. But when it comes to that
Yeah.
whole issue, you cannot just blame it on Modi and say that it's his fault.
Yeah, I understand.
And
But I
then
feel
when
like
it comes
even,
to
I mean,
the
you definitely can't blame him for the start of the issue, but you also can't blame him for being the one who stopped.
I think it's his
who tried to put a
response. I
stop
think
to
it's
it.
mainly his response that I have an issue with.
his
Like
response was
for
obviously
Ayodhya, for example, I feel like it was super just like tone deaf for him to even show up to like.
Okay, hold
I
on.
guess,
We have not given enough
Ayush,
context.
okay, so first of all, what do you think?
First,
wait,
give context.
Gupta,
First, give
Gupta.
context.
So
First,
no,
give
okay.
I
First of all,
think I'm gonna step
Okay,
in.
Amnish
and
and Gupta.
yeah.
Okay. So a lot of these religious issues can honestly be traced to the Hindus did something to the Muslims did something to the Hindus, and then
Don't
that
forget the
cycle
Sikhs.
sort of repeated.
Don't forget the
Okay.
Sikhs. I feel like that's
Okay,
also important.
and
But
the
it's
Sikhs
like the main
and
two
the Sikhs.
large religious groups in India, like
Okay,
Muslim.
so one aggressed the other in some particular way, and
Yeah.
then that became a chain reaction for that to continue on for the next 200 years. Okay, so the one. Okay, so the next so the thing that Ayush keeps referring to, this temple in Ayodhya. Ayodhya is supposedly the birthplace of a Hindu god named Ram. Okay, very highly regarded in this
It's our
religion.
Jesus.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. You could say he's Hindu Jesus. All right.
He's Hindu
Okay.
Jesus.
So sometime in the rule of the Mughal Empire, the emperor had decided essentially that he was kind of going to go on a spree of just tearing down a lot of very important temples and in their place erecting mosques. Sort of as a I mean, it's almost as like a sort of a cultural cleansing, right, or a religious cleansing. Okay, and so the claim was made that the mosque that was built in the same area, in the same town where the temple was for the birthplace of Ram, was erected on top of this temple that really nobody has like serious proof other than some archaeology.
They do.
Okay, well, no, I have. So there's a archaeological, yeah, there's an archaeological finding that says that there was some sort of construct which was built under the mosque, but there's nothing to definitively prove that it wasn't just another mosque or a temple. All right, I have read that paper, by the way. All right, so don't come at me like that. All right.
No, okay. When it comes to that, when it comes to the archaeological findings, first of all, you have to also realize is that there was no mosque there before that. It was literally a temple. Like there was archaeological evidence that proved that was a temple. And the other thing,
I'm telling you that, like, if you read the paper in which the whole legal case is decided on, does not actually say that the ruins in fact are a temple.
Okay, and this could be
it seeks to figure that out, but it's super weak at proving that. That's my opinion.
Okay, we
Yeah, I'm
also
gonna go
need
Arnold
to.
Goswami on
Okay,
everyone's
wait, no,
ass.
but
Okay,
we're going
hold
to
on.
wait 1 second. We're going too far into detail here. All right. So, in the 90s, the mosque that was built there was torn down by some far right Hindus. Okay, and then for 25 years, there's been an ongoing legal dispute as to which way the land should go. Should it go to the Hindus? Should it go to the Muslims? Okay. And in the process, there was like all this shady shit that happened. There was a mosque and a temple that were erected. Then there was more violence at mosques and temples, and because they basically were sharing the land. Okay, and then finally, Narendra Modi, Prime Minister, wins his election 2 years ago, right? 2018, 2019. And he says, okay, this issue has been ongoing for 25 years. Indians and Hindus everywhere are like Indians, Hindus, Muslims everywhere are super fed up that this has gone on for so long. And then the way it falls is towards the Hindus. And in the process, the large beef that a lot of us took, at least like the Desi crowd over here, who has grown up under this idea of separation of church and state, a lot of us took issue with this idea that the prime minister showed up to the groundbreaking of the new temple that.
Niche, you're cutting in and out, at least for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, he just pretty much said that Modi showed up to the groundbreaking of the new site or the new temple, and it was just like, you know, as someone who's supposed to unify people, as a leader who's supposed to even though he didn't start a lot of these issues, the way he responded and the way, you know, he had an opportunity to unite rather than divide, he didn't take those opportunities, and I think that's my main issue with him. It's similar.
So that's okay. I agree with that was like kind of a messed up thing. He definitely shouldn't have been so partisan about it. But when it came to the actual case, it was nothing to do with Modi that decided the outcome of that.
Yeah, no, I
was like,
with that.
By the way, also the judge that made the ruling in India, there's no jury, first of all, so everything is decided by a judge, right? The judge that made that decision was Muslim himself. So there was no like religious thing. It was based on a shit ton of evidence that the Babri Masjid was constructed on top of a old Hindu mandir that was dedicated to God. So there was like a shit ton of evidence of niche. I don't know where you're coming from when it comes to saying that, oh, we don't know who made that. Like there was a lot of archaeological evidence. Then on top of that, when it comes to the actual ruling of the whole thing, I think it was pretty fair. When it came to the overall end of the ruling, what happened was that they also gave like 5 acres of land for another mosque, like close by. So there was no like unfair ruling at the end of the day based on the court's decision. When it comes to Modi going in and doing all that stuff, it was more of a show of support than anything, in my opinion, that he was like showing that, look,
but that's the issue, right? You know, when you have so many
Hindu at the end of the day, if you don't, like, for example,
I know he is too, but
like,
he should be. I think he should be the prime minister of India first, and India is not just Hindus. And if there's an issue
at the end of the day, when it
every community, he needs to stand with the community first, not just his Hindu community.
India's got as many Muslims as America has Americans. Okay, like that is the scale of population we're talking here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
no, I'm just saying. Last comments, and we should wrap up because the point of this podcast was not talking about Hindu-Muslim relations. We're talking about like, other like more modern things as well. So I just wanted to. Anyone had one last thing to say, or did transition?
Is it possible for us to keep going, or does everybody have to wrap up?
I can do 20 minutes.
By 11.
No, we're not wrapping up. We're going to a new topic on Indian politics.
Oh yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, but I'm just saying I'm fine with going over an hour this time because, like, you know, it's vacation, and I think this issue kind of deserves more attention.
I think let's talk about I feel like we should talk about like the representation of what Indian politics and just like general society, especially like what it looks like, how it's being portrayed now, right?
I think that the one topic we should definitely cover is the farmer rights or farmer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I pulled up.
Okay. Yes, we should talk about that. Yes. And then if it's okay, could we cap off at COVID-19 response?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I was going to do that, but I mean, a little big answer to the COVID-19 response is going to be overpopulation. a lot
Yeah.
of these things are going to be overpopulation. But yeah, we can definitely end up on that because that's like the most I wouldn't say trending because that's like a positive connotation, but like most like relevant topic in the media today about the COVID response in India.
But when it
But okay.
comes to the Punjabi, or sorry, not Punjabi, but the farmer protest that's been happening,
Yeah.
a little bit of background on that as well. So we cannot discount the fact that in the 1980s, Indira Gandhi was killed due to the fact that there were a lot of pro-Khalistan movements that were occurring in India, and there was a large rebellious movement that led to a large population of the Sikhs within Punjab moving from Punjab to places such as Canada and the United States under the status of.
You should also mention the Golden Temple. I think
So the
that was
Golden
a
Temple,
big part of it,
like
too.
the Golden Temple firefights that were happening were as a result of Operation Blue Star, right? Where there was like an insane amount of ammunition, and it was enough ammunition to pretty much like lead to a pretty well-funded rebellion in India.
Wait, one second. I think there's a good one-liner to explain this. Some terrorists went and took over a very holy
Don't call
temple
them
in North
terrorists.
India.
Don't call them terrorists.
Okay, well, I'm gonna use the term that history and otherwise population has come down on. All right.
But no,
All
they
right,
weren't.
fine. We
terrorists.
can. What do you want to call them then? What do you want to call them?
They were rebellion, like they were.
Okay.
Rebels,
Religious
rebels,
extremists.
Extremists, rebels, whatever you want to call them.
They definitely were not terrorists. Though. They were
They
not.
decide. They decide. Okay, let me just finish this. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's remove the naming of what their group is for a second.
It was a group
Let's
of
just
people.
objectively say
Group X.
it was a group of people decided to post up inside a very religious temple, and so the prime minister at the time sent in like the military or some special ops of some sorts, and they were sent in to remove this group of people from this very holy temple, and in the process they spilled these people's blood on this temple, and
When
so
they were
Sikhs
told
very
not to.
upset by that.
When they
Yeah,
were
they
told
were
not
specifically
to,
told.
like, please don't.
I think they were
No,
specific.
they were
Yeah,
not told not to. They were fired upon, and then they had to fire back.
I mean, I think they were
Okay.
told
Again.
not to, from what I remember. But yeah,
Mhm.
Okay, well,
I'm not justifying it or
okay,
unjustifying it.
folks, this is besides the point. We're trying to keep this to a one-liner. Blood was spilled by the
We're past
Indian,
one line of niche. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Indian government shot these rebels inside this temple, this Sikh temple. The Sikhs were very upset at the prime minister at this point. Indian prime minister's bodyguard was a Sikh. He ended up
Two of them.
assassinating her, and it
Mhm.
created such a bad response out of him.
Wait, you cut off.
Left, right.
He's cutting up.
What did you say?
Say that last part
Okay.
again.
I was saying, okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, so the
response after the
bodyguard of
assassination.
the bodyguard, yeah, the response after the assassination was such that Hindus were straight up left, right, and center, just going out and killing Sikhs in the streets, beating them black and blue.
Well, I mean, it
That's
was
historical context.
Yeah.
And a lot of okay, go ahead, Gupta, sorry.
I mean, it wasn't just one way. It was like a big fight between both sides because the Sikh population was also really large. It wasn't just that Hindus committed atrocities. There were atrocities on both sides. Like you can't.
I mean, there's clearly one majority that had
in
definitely more
Punjab
power
in
and
Punjab
could be
and Haryana,
have a more oppressive hand.
in Punjab and Haryana, that's not the case. The places where they were actually like fighting, it was not the case. Hindus are at a minority there. You have to realize that Hindus are like the dispersion of Hindus is all over the country, but when it comes to their actual concentration, most of them are located in like very specific areas. But same thing with like Punjabis, right? Like they're located in, or Sikhs, they're located in Punjab and Haryana. Over there, they're the majority of the population. You just can't think of the fact that they went and killed thousands of people that were there. It was both sides that were committing atrocities. You can't discount that.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
now
also-
when we're moving towards NSP, right? Now we're looking towards today's day and age. This is a very key factor that plays in. So when it comes to the farmers' protest, there's a very big argument as to what it was caused about what the cause was for the farmers protest. And I think that the one thing that we have to kind of nobody, like I keep saying this, that you cannot discount these facts because they're very, like, you cannot discount any fact when it comes to these things. And this is what a lot of Western media has done, is discount a lot of the main facts. The farmers protest was conducted majority by two states in India, and these two states are the highest earning states in India when it comes to farmers. They're the richest states. They don't have the highest population of farmers. They don't have the highest like overall income. The income per so they don't have the highest number of farms either. The highest number of farms are in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, right? Now, when Modi passed this
Was it
bill,
Modi? It was the Rajya Sab. Yeah, right.
Rajya Sabha is the name of the government branch that
Oh,
passes.
okay.
So,
Like I was in. Okay.
so Modi, when he wrote the bill and he got, so Rajya Sabha is kind of like the Senate and the Lok Sabha is kind of like the House of Representatives.
House of Representatives. Yeah.
So when it comes to Modi passing this bill, he put it on for a very good thing. It was to empower the overall farmers throughout the country, and that was what it was seen to do. The problem was, now the rich farmers in these areas in Punjab, Kerala, Haryana, they were going to get affected because now they won't be able to buy a lot of these crops and products at a lower price from the farmers. So what these rich farmers kind of did, and this might be my own narrative, but this is what I had this explained to me by a couple people, was that they started kind of doing a misinformation campaign in these areas, saying that, look, they're going to kill you in terms of prices, when in all reality this is putting the pricing in the hands of the farmers. Every single person who has every single expert in India who has had an opinion about this has said that this is good for the farmers of the poorer areas. Next thing on this topic is the fact that if you want this bill to get passed, you need the state legislation to pass it. The four states that didn't were Punjab, Haryana, Kerala, and I'm forgetting the fourth, but those are the four states that also have the richest farmers. There was obviously like a connection between the two, right? So when it comes to the protest, it was a huge misinformation campaign that a lot of people fell for. It was a big conspiracy at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to the Western portrayal of it, when the New York Times said, "We stand with the farmers," that does not mean that they stand with the fucking farmers. That means that they stand with a very secluded number of the farmers in India.
The rich farmers who are controlling the
Exactly.
narrative.
They're not standing for the poor farmers who have to deal with people like Nestle, who's literally have their land stolen, right? What this bill does is that it allows these farmers to sell not just to one company. Now multiple companies can come in and bid for various crops. And
So, my question is.
Oh, sorry. Go for it, Kriti.
No, it says so. So when I remember when I was reading up against this, it says the farmers one of the main protest farmers is that they are not as in charge of their sale or the price of their crops, at their mercy of the corporate and the companies that are selling crops, and that's one of the biggest problems that they had with the farmer bills.
Piggybacking off of Kriti, there's a guaranteed minimum that was previously in place in these markets, and with this new bill, that would pretty much be taken away, and that would let corporations be able to set their own prices.
A big misinformation thing. MSP was never removed. MSP was always said that it would be there was nothing in that bill, absolutely nothing in that bill that said that MSP is removed. So again, there's nothing.
It's not removed, but it is a step in towards it's a step towards that direction. One of the protests that they had is that MSP be guaranteed by the government. MSP do not ever be removed.
That's the other thing, right? Like when it comes to the negotiations between the farmers and the government of India, MSP was one of the things that the government of India was very lenient with. They said that yes, we will let it go. Like But the rest of the things that were happening when it came to the demands of the farmers, the 11 demands of the farmers from Punjab, it was ridiculous what they were asking for. First of all, they were saying that crop burning, you should let it become a thing. Crop burning has destroyed the environment. Second thing that is big when it comes
crop
to
burning, just for context, is for the soil. So if you burn a crop, you can like replenish the soil and the nutrients
and it's
that are
also, if
available
you have
there.
a bad crop, then you can just get rid of it instead of having to remove it all.
Wait,
I
also
just want to give some context.
MSP is minimum selling price.
Yeah, MSP is minimum.
Okay, just make sure.
Then the fourth thing was that they wanted to remove any restrictions on the water. As of right now, in terms of the water usage in Punjab and Haryana, it's fucked. Like, there's a very good reason why they put that there. If you look at it, experts are predicting within the next 30 years, these two states are literally going to become desert like wastelands because of the fact that there's no regulation on water. What this bill did was that it increased the regulation on water, and it helped with like maintaining like reservoirs. There were plenty of other demands that happened. There was also one that was, I thought that was just the most craziest thing, was that they wanted to release the people who had so they wanted to release the people who had taken
went to jail for burning and for electricity riots.
That one too, but they also had a demand where they released the people who were planning to assassinate Modi in those areas. So that was like another big demand that they had, and I like, there were plenty of demands that just didn't make sense for the government to meet, and these people, the rich farmers, were not budging when it came to this. MSP was one of the things that the Indian government was like, yo, look, let's talk, let's sit down and talk, but they were not budging on a lot of these issues at the end of the day. So when it comes to this thing, you cannot just simply say that, look, we are pro farmer, pro Modi. You have to be in the center. You have to look at both sides and kind of deduce the facts that there's a good reason as to why this was conducted, and there's a good reason as to why Modi has not moved even an inch. He hasn't budged at all on this now. It's because of the fact that there are multiple issues that they're trying to solve with this. So this whole Instagram posting saying that, oh, I stand with the farmers, New York Times posting that, oh yeah, I stand with the farmers, it doesn't make sense to me at the end of the day, because you're not really understanding what's going on in the background.
I think the Instagram posting and the response of the Western media, at least, has been to the, I don't think, like, I agree, like, I had to research a lot of the farm laws. Like, I think the average person who's supporting is not responding to the farm laws themselves. It's responding to the treatment of some of the farmers. Like, obviously, the things that go in the news, the things the New York Times and stuff we cover, are the treatment of like how like farmers are being beat up, kind of farmers like having their electricity canceled, all these ways that local governments are treating the farmers. And obviously, I don't think anyone in this Zoom, this video podcast, whatever, thinks that is fair. They think that farmers should have the right to peacefully protest, peacefully riot.
So that's true, but when you have this population of America protesting on the streets of Delhi, right? That's a huge issue as well, right? So Delhi only has like 5 inroads that go into the city. So like when it comes to the highway coming into Delhi, there was a huge issue when it came to medical supplies. So when it comes to the mistreatment of the farmers, they also didn't understand the fact that they needed to get out of the way for certain like supply trucks to come in, and that's what led to a lot of these water cannons and stuff. And like obviously that's not the right response, but there is, and it shouldn't be a justification, but it's kind of just, you need to understand that people were also dying due to the coronavirus. So there was a multitude of factors that was playing into this, right?
Yeah, I one thing I like to bring up is it's like kind of similar to the freedom of speech thing I was talking about. You mentioned coronavirus. Like, there's if you Google like farmer protest, if you read a like Indian newspaper versus American or like Western newspapers, it's a drastic difference. Like, you see some Indian newspapers like, oh, why the farmers protest is causing the spread of the coronavirus. Like, they're correlating the spike to the protest, and that, I don't know, that kind of struck me in the wrong way, because it reminded me of like how like right-wing individuals were correlating the Black Lives Matter protests to the spread of coronavirus in the United States. And
Yeah.
so I think both parties are both like you said, there is no right answer here. We're just like bringing light. We're just talking about it, but there are some things that are having bias.
Oh wait, when I say when
Yeah,
I said
I think-
coronavirus, I wasn't
sorry.
talking about like the spread amongst the farmers. I was talking about the people that were dying in Delhi. Like they didn't have enough ventilators coming in, so the ventilators were coming in through the northern part of the city, and that was like, and they were blocking that access. So that was one big reason that the water hoses were being used, was that they just like simply weren't letting them through. So it was like a huge issue for the medical campuses in Delhi itself.
So like overall, I think I can agree. Like there was definitely some misinformation and context being left out, because I feel like definitely in the U.S. we like to find, even like the way we do podcasts, right? We like to find parallels between like what it's like over there and like what's the most similar situation in the U.S., right? So what happened was, like, obviously the New York Times will, like, Modi's been painted as Trump multiple times, so that's like immediately, at least people who are more left leaning, puts a target on Modi's back, even though, I mean, I disagree with a lot of the things he does, but Indian government also has its own set of like nuances and different, like, I don't know, political system setup that makes it's a different landscape.
Yeah.
And I think you can't paint
the same
paint
way.
it under the same brush.
Yeah.
Good point, Ayush.
And
Amnish, are you there? Sorry.
That's the other thing. Sorry, last point is that.
Yeah, I'm still there. I'm just trying to follow along. My bad.
Okay.
And then,
it's just the internet's a little wonky.
This is my last one. Like, right, when the New York Times writes about India, right, they portray it as a country that's very, I feel like they don't understand the sheer size of the fucking country. They think that India, the most recent headline I read, or one of the recent headlines I read was like, oh yeah, India is supposed to become the next Israel, right? Dude, India has the second highest Muslim population in the world, just behind Indonesia, and it's going to beat that population within the next 20 years. India has will have the highest population of Muslim people in the world. The fact that you don't fucking understand that is just mind-boggling to me.
No, dude, that's the thing. A lot of people in the West don't even realize that India has religions outside of Hinduism, like how there's Christianity, Buddhism,
Judaism. Large number of Jews in India too. There's like a huge number. India is the number one, like in terms of religion, they have the highest number of Hindus. They will have the highest number of Muslims. They have the highest number of Baha'i. They have the highest number of Zoroastrians, the highest number of Jains, Sikhs. Like, when it comes to religion, India has the highest number of like most religions minus Judaism. That's it. And Catholicism. Like, that's the only thing that they're lacking in terms of diversity.
And that kind of feeds back to the religious tensions and like a lot of the divides that are in India, and they're kind of talking about. It's like it can't be governed equally, because when you have like a Hindu nationalist leader like Modi, you can't it's hard to compare his actions to the way that Trump or like any other American president, or Biden or any American president does, because like we said, the separation of church and state is much more pronounced in the United States than it is in a very religious country such as India, in which there is no, the national language is like English. There's no like set language, because there's hundreds of different languages and dialects, hundreds of different religions, and so I agree that the governance is different.
No, and Priti, I don't think, also, I wouldn't put Modi as like a ultra right-wing Hindu nationalist leader, by the way. Like,
he's has done things. He has done things that put him in that light. Even though he explicitly doesn't say I'm a Hindu nationalist, there's definitely like he definitely leans a little bit more there.
He hasn't, like, again, the stuff that he's done is portrayed that way by the media a lot of the times. But when it comes to the actual, like, him thinking about these issues, he has done a lot for Islam in India as well. Like the law where you can say, where you just need to say talaq, 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 right? In Islam, 3 times, right? And you can get a divorce. He removed that. Like, he is very much into. I think that when it comes to a lot of things he's done, sure, some might say that, oh yeah, this is very like anti-Muslim and stuff like that. but it's kind of a changing of the status quo, and people don't like that. It's more of in my opinion, what he's trying to do is trying to make India keep up with the world superpowers, first of all, and then also and to do that, he needs to make a more cohesive country, obviously.
Mhm.
But there's a reason that so many people vote for him, regardless of religion. There's a very high number of Muslim people that also vote for Modi at the end of the day, because they've seen that he has helped out a lot of, in a lot of areas. But the Western media obviously like portrays him in a light that nobody understands. So
They put him under the Trump lens,
exactly,
pretty much.
and that's not fair. That's not fair at all.
I mean,
Using Biden
definitely their friendship didn't help with that. But
Howdy,
bro.
Modi.
yeah, I could.
He
Yeah,
doesn't. He doesn't give a shit. Like that's the other thing. I realized that like Modi's a fucking savage when it comes to international relations. When it comes to Biden,
that's the issue. He doesn't give a shit.
but
That's
about
what.
But like
That's
when
what,
it comes to like Trump, Biden or Trump, as of right now, he put them on the exact same playing field. Like people said that, oh yeah, this would be a really bad thing for Modi if Biden got elected, right? He
Yeah,
didn't
they're
let
both.
that happen.
They're both. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
trade relations are actually a lot stronger than with Trump. So you like
Uh,
they put him under a Trump lens because he has people in his cabinet that are fucking crazy. That's it. Like, but yeah.
all right. We'll move on to our last topic of the day. I know we're already at the 1 hour mark, so apologize if this podcast ends up being a little longer, guys, but we're all having fun, I think. Hopefully you guys are too. So we're talking about the recent COVID outbreak, second wave of coronavirus in India right now. Obviously, it's very devastating. You know, millions, hundreds of thousands, 200,000 cases pretty much on the daily at this point, 300,000 cases on the daily. If you guys haven't, if you guys can support India, like it would be like donating like the UNICEF for oxygen canisters or whatever organization, any facet that you can do, I'm sure that will help. So I guess I wanted to talk about why do you guys think that this outbreak got so bad? Obviously, like I said in the beginning, overpopulated. I mean, there's like a billion people in a country the third of the size of America. Like it's
yeah.
really bad.
So
It's
go for it.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Okay,
so,
yeah, sorry.
okay, wait. Okay, you go for it. You.
Okay.
You.
So I guess I wanted to start with there are very tangible things that led to this. For example, India is a country that has incredibly high population density, so people can't really socially distance. But then going off of that, okay, sorry. So that's one tangible thing. Another tangible thing is Indians' access to medicine on a greater scale is just like going to be poor, just because they don't have widespread healthcare infra. Okay, now in terms of
Did you say
not
infra instead of
tangibles, and these are
infrastructure?
Wait, you want to know something
Yeah, sorry.
funny? Like throughout the world, like, oh yeah, we say that this country has socialized healthcare, this country has like capitalist healthcare and shit. India has
Sure.
its own form of healthcare that nobody understands, like except for like medical
It's called
experts.
shitty healthcare.
It's called shitty health, but like it's so weird because there's no definition as to what India's healthcare system actually represents. Like, there's socialism, there's capitalism involved, but nobody fucking knows what works. Like,
Okay.
Actually, shitty
But
healthcare
now,
was pretty strong. I like to take that in my comments. Shout out to all the doctors working really hard for the COVID patients because all the hospitals are overbooked. I like to withdraw before I get canceled. Go ahead.
no, but I think the bigger the thing that now is gonna like go in more into my opinions as opposed to facts is like knowledge is just like one of those things that people hold dearly to themselves as fact. But then just like, can you guys really think about how many times you've heard something and it's been told to you as a fact, but you yourself have never really confirmed it?
what do
Hi,
you
Ravi
mean?
Uncle.
All the time.
Wait, what did you say?
Oh, hey, Ravi Uncle's just in the background. Say hi, Dad.
Hi, Uncle.
Okay. So like,
Sorry, what's your question?
I guess what I'm getting at then is that, well, in India, there's a widespread problem with people just going through at the WhatsApp forwards, mass misinformation campaigns brought upon yourselves. Okay, people, and this is really a global thing. It's not just in India, but it definitely had a worse effect in India at this point. The mixture of politics and healthcare, specifically when there's a win, people, oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. In January, when Modi was like, yeah guys, Indians everywhere, you guys have saved the planet, you guys have beat the coronavirus, you guys are pioneers, you guys are strong. Oh man, how he fucked everybody over when he said that. Oh geez. I mean, like, just like this idea that like somebody who is not a person who's founded in science can have like such a large impact as to basically almost trick people into thinking that everything has been fine, and then for everybody to stop the social distancing, to stop the quarantining, to stop the wearing of the masks.
When did he say that?
He did say there was a
there's a speech that he gave. There's a speech.
He pretty much said like, yeah, like we've beaten this virus, like it's all because of the Indian people. So yeah, like in a way, I'll give Modi that. Like he was trying to unify the people and trying to celebrate. But on the other hand, he jumped the gun way too quick, and then this variant came out.
You know the conversation that I was having with our relatives, Ayush, is that, oh, Indians have stronger immune systems. They could be.
Yeah, that's what Dad said, man. He was just we're just built different.
Nobody. Let's get something very straight. Nobody has a clear fucking understanding of what's going on, first of all. And two, your immune system can't beat something that it hasn't seen, all right? That's not how it works, all right? It can't just go out of its way to go after something that it's never entirely seen before. This
has had like MERS or SARS already, so I that's all I'm saying. Like,
all right,
okay.
Just to kind of like a public health aspect of this, when I saw this issue. One, India has a very young population. Like compared to, we're talking about America's like the social security thing. America has a very like growing older population. India, as a developing country, has a very young population, and therefore, as a developing country, like when the first wave of coronavirus hit, they weren't as affected as we all necessarily thought they would be because of the young population being able to not tolerate better, but like the COVID vaccine obviously affected like older population much more significantly. So the experience that India had with its first wave kind of relaxed their understanding, to relax their approach towards future of the coronavirus. That was another thing that was led to the second wave. That's what led to the basis of people saying, "Oh, Indians have a strong immune system." I don't doubt that they go through some shit. They eat some crap. They have terrible air quality. They eat terrible food. That their immune systems are probably on average better than maybe like an average person in America. But I don't think it's strong enough to fight off the COVID. But you know what? Another thing is kind of relating back to when in January when Modi was saying stuff like I don't know the exact words, but it's something similar to tone of what Avnish was saying. But one other thing that they did is the whole political aspect of thing. But we say Modi trying to build a world power. So what he did is a lot of the vaccines that they were given, actually said they had purchased, instead of Modi saying like, oh, promoting the distribution and use of vaccines in India, he's like, yeah, I'm going to distribute it to like other countries and focused on like shipping it to Brazil, which I mean, it's a good thing. Like Brazil at that time was very significantly hit by the coronavirus and they needed as much help as they could. And they're giving it to countries around the world rather than focusing on their own population. And while that from like a global aspect is obviously, commendable, the message that it gave to people in India is like, oh yeah, I don't trust this COVID vaccine yet. Like our prime minister isn't like emphasizing like, like Biden, like his thing, like when he came into office, like we need to get like 100 million vaccines. Like he and his presidency and like a lot of other presidencies have like focused on the distribution of COVID vaccines within their own country before they focused on outside help. Like now that the U.S. has kind of had the situation more in control, they're helping out like India and helping out like Brazil and like other countries in the world that are struggling with it. But that was not Modi's approach. Like the timing of it, in which they had like a drop in cases in winter, was like kind of suspect. And so like, yeah, we beat the COVID, we beat coronavirus. We can just not worry about it anymore. That's what led to people not taking the vaccine, people stopped taking masks, lockdown being over. So those are kind of like the first initial like public health aspects of why I ended up coming back and biting India in the butt really badly in terms of their modern outbreak. I know there's also, this is something that I wanted to quickly mention. The Indo-China relations are also not very good right now, I would say, in a delicate place.
I think that's
Whereas,
I know with everyone though. So
yeah, well, I mean, the India and China in particular, and there's a growing,
They're the two big dogs.
there's a growing, I don't know, WhatsApp forums or growing whatever narrative that China planted a bioweapons bomb in India that caused the second outbreak, or that China planted a bioweapons bomb that caused this white fungus, black fungus that's causing in India. And so I just wanted to know.
Like, why the
So I don't want. I mean, I don't want. This is a serious matter, Gupta. Um, so I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, if you guys have heard anything similar from your families, from your guys'
Wait, no,
I don't know, news outlets.
Like, it's literally like a Japanese lab-made virus that was spread to the rest of the world, and
No, just India. Just because they were jealous of India.
Yeah, okay, that's ridiculous.
But like things like this kind of like, and for like, it kind of ties back to things we were talking about earlier about like the growing uncertainty, the growing like tensions between different political tensions and religious tensions in India that can cause drastic issues and mistrust and can really impede the growth of India as a country. So I was just something not related to the COVID outbreak necessarily, but I just wanted to bring up.
I think that like in terms of my family especially, if anyone were to say that shit, like my brother and I, we would go off on them.
Yeah.
So like they're very hesitant in talking trash about like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. When it comes to like Asian, the thing is that by just based on epidemiology as of right now, you can also see that when it comes to the larger scheme of things, like the highest likelihood of like viruses developing, the places which they have the highest likelihood of developing are India and China because of the population density and the fact that
the climate there is conducive for like viral and bacterial growth.
Exactly. And then also on top of that, like you also see that they don't have that big of a separation between animals and humans as we do in America. Like you'll see cows roaming the streets, right? That's literally how smallpox and cowpox came.
Vector transmission, yeah.
Yeah, vector transmission super easy between animals and humans. So I think that it's just like science makes sense. If you start putting all this bullshit conspiracy theories into it, it like kind of fucks up your view on life. Like we don't actually understand much, which is why I think that like a science education is so important. But
education is also a major cause for all these issues that we talked about before. Like I think we talked about overpopulation, but I think education would be right up there as the second biggest, or if not the biggest, cause of these racial, religious, political tensions.
Man, I think
you're muted if you're trying to say something.
Sorry, I was going to say in India, there's like here, I feel like the streams of information are like, okay, there's probably a lot, but it's like very generalized. Where in India, there's just so many streams of information depending on like the communities you come from, to the point where, like coming to a consensus is like infinitely harder in India of like even on like basic facts, right?
Yep.
Especially pertaining to the like this surge and even like how like just the whole way India's been dealing with COVID. But
especially, I 100% agree. Especially in like the gaons, like the villages, where there's like not as much like like TV or like print newspapers or like lower literacy rates. Those are areas that are most highly affected because the type of information is kind of like word of mouth by neighbors, and that is just prone to bias and other factors. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it was inevitable, but there was a lot of factors stacked up against India in terms of COVID virus, and I think that Modi's lack of like distribution of vaccines or like the kind of government, or the just like the governmental, like the national like distrust in the efficacy of the vaccines kind of really could have mitigated the second wave. Like if
Wait,
Modi had like
Pratik,
addressed it
I
in
think
June.
that when it comes to the like dispersion of vaccines internationally, like vaccine diplomacy has become such a big thing that's kind of necessary in today's day and age.
No, I agree. I agree, but I think, I mean, I this is what I've heard. This is like also one thing that can be fact on. But they were at one point deploying more vaccines and administering them. That
Yeah,
was
so in places like even like Russia, they
Yeah.
deploy 80% of the vaccines. They keep 20.
well, I mean, they don't have as much of a population or as much of a
But even then,
factors.
that's like it's like dumb, right? At the end of the day, that you're deploying 80%. It's again an economic move by Modi,
Mhm.
so that
I
you
think
can,
it's also like his whole speech when he was like, "Oh yeah, we've defeated this virus. It's brownie points." Like he
yeah,
was just
exactly.
trying to like I understand. Like I did appreciate the like his in terms of like trying to unite the people a little bit of like we did this together.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
like I feel like in terms of like in this situation, it just wasn't the move because I feel like every country, I mean like not just India, but like every country's gone through the motions of like, oh yeah, we've like starting to beat the shit, and then oh wait, here's a second surge. You know, we always jump the gun, and with India, it was even more deadly. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I
agree.
feel like you can't blame a single person. You can't. It's
Yeah.
obviously a bunch of factors, but you know, this whole like year has just been like in a way damage control. Like
Yeah.
like some bad things, unfortunately, like it seems like it'll inevitably happen, but like there are ways to respond where it won't be as devastating, and that's where it's gone wrong.
that's true. No, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
People are gonna die even more now, or actually, no, death tolls are going lower, right, in India.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
The infection rate's down,
Infection rate, yeah. But I
but yeah,
think
they
that
might
Alright.
reach herd immunity because of that.
herd immunity is going to be impossible in a place like India. They're, by right now the vaccine dispersion rate in India, they're predicting that the whole country will be vaccinated by 2030, 10 years from now, 8
Yeah,
years.
I was talking to on my like soccer analytics account. There's like I have a lot of like followers from India, and we were talking about like vaccine rollout and stuff like that. It's like a lot of people haven't even like there isn't really much of a plan of like, you know, here we have our tier system. In India, it's like a little bit more disorganized. It varies from like what your clinic is, what region you're in. And you're just like, yeah, man, I'll be lucky if I get it by like sometime in 2022. And I'm just like, damn. And then I also asked him like, are there any like local orgs that I could donate to? And he was like, you should do it, but honestly, a lot of them are like mishandling funds, and like the money is getting funneled to other places where it shouldn't be. And he was just like, yeah, just don't do it right now. It'll be a waste of money. And it's just like,
Yeah, there you go. There's
it's a
also
shame.
corruption, like
corruption is another big factor behind a
Yeah.
lot of these
all this
political, religious, or racial healthcare issues.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're reaching the time limit. Anyone want to have any final comments before I finish things off?
Yeah, last comment from me is, look, when it comes to these issues, I know that I might not have the same opinion as most of y'all when it comes to most of this stuff, but
I
definitely
mean, you never do, but sorry, I really just hopped in at the wrong time.
But that's also because I don't like the fact that you are so we've become such a one-sided society that it's it's so binary that this is right and this is wrong. It can't be like that. You have to have it be kind of more like a
Yeah,
spectrum of thought
but
when
that's
it
see,
these
but
things.
like
I can
the
still
issue with that
criticize.
is
Sorry.
no, yeah, you're right. You're right with like things shouldn't be so binary all the time. Like there is like complexities in every different situation, but like man, education is the most important thing because like people who are less educated or don't know much about a topic will view things as binary, whereas like if you read up about these things, you'll see different
But
complexities and
that's what
whatnot.
pisses me
So
off the
just
most,
read up.
right? That
I
see
know
so many
it's not fun. It's not fun
like
at
I
all.
see so many people on Facebook and everything. They're all like college. They've all gone to college. They've all like a lot of them are going into med school, and like a lot of them are doing like master's programs. Like a lot of them are like doing PhDs, and they're just very one-sided on a lot of these issues. So even like education, you need to like read up on the history. You need to read up
Yeah,
on the
100%. That's
economics.
education.
That's education. Exactly. You need to be very multifaceted when it comes to these issues. You can't just have one view of like issues. You can't have the fact that it's just right now that this is exactly what's happening right now, which is why everything is so bad for this group of people. Like you need to look at the history and understand
Yeah, and I
what
think
led to this. Like obviously there are very bad
I think
situations as of right now, but
sorry.
just last slide, sorry, but like you need to understand the history
Mhm.
behind something before you can make a judgment call as to what is right or wrong. And if you feel that I have said something that just doesn't make sense to you, or like just that doesn't line up with your thoughts, then like talk about it. Don't cancel me.
No, I'm gonna cancel you and call you a racist. No, I'm just kidding.
Like that's what I'm saying.
But
Though.
I
Oh
totally
man,
agree.
I think Gupta, this is something we could totally agree on.
Like when it comes to, I've seen too that like because of my views and stuff, I've seen people, they've stopped talking to me on a lot of these issues. It's because they just genuinely don't appreciate what I've said. But I keep telling this to you guys and everyone in my friend groups as well, that if you don't agree with something, then talk to me about it. Don't just stop talking. That literally makes the divide even worse.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
Yeah,
think
you can reach
yeah,
out
because
to
I think
Gupta
a
at hindulover69@gmail.com.
Tyrant
I'm joking, I'm
to at on Instagram. I'm kidding.
also by the way,
But
I'm not even religious, so
I was joking, Gupta.
I
like,
think yeah, like I agree. Like I feel like yes, there are sometimes like it's very hard. Like let's say someone has a very polar opposite view, where like especially here in the U.S., like Black Lives Matter, police brutality, where it's like sometimes it's hard to like even fathom like how can someone think this way or like not really think much about someone else's life. But I think I do agree on some issues where if you stop having a dialogue, then we're never going to come to an understanding or at least try to compromise on certain things. And to the point of like, education and misinformation, like in terms of like, people picking like one side versus the other, I think that's also a huge result because there's just been so many, like throughout this year, there's been so many issues, you know, both interconnected and not connected to the point where like everyone kind of feels like there's a responsibility to at least have a stance on it, even if it's based off of like, your pastel looking Instagram repost or like whatever New York Times article you read. But I mean, I feel like what I'm trying to do, or like, what I strive to do is focus on like the issues that I probably care about the most and just focus on those. Because if you disperse your energy amongst a billion things, I feel like your impact is a lot lower. I don't know if
yeah,
that's related at all to this,
I
but like
100%, no, Ayush, that's a good way
I
to
think
look
you
at
need
it.
to dive deep on one because I feel like you're going to get the information right. You're going to be able to have a bigger impact. And you kind of like, even with you, like, let's say I got super knowledgeable about one political issue, I could like kind of Gupta, who is like, there's definitely some bias here, but he's definitely very well read up on a lot of things. So yeah, he's like a good source of information. And then if there's something that, seems a little fishy, like I can go do my own information too, but it's a good way to keep a dialogue going and it's
Exactly.
important.
Yeah, and if you think that I say anything fishy, Ayush, fuck you, man. I did all my research.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But no, if you do feel like something is wrong, then I agree. Like that's 100% perfect way of looking at it. We're not fighting. Like we're not in the midst of a war. That if I say something
Oh,
that,
are we dropping? Are we dropping in a war zone?
Oh,
uh, but that's
Gupta's
what I'm
always
saying.
in the gulag with these comments.
But that's what I'm saying. Like we're not in like we shouldn't consider that fact that oh somebody said something that doesn't line up with your view. Like oh you're the wrong person. Like I'm gonna kill you now. You should like have a dialogue. That's what you should saying. Have a fucking dialogue. Talk to people. Seriously,
Any
it's
last comments, Avnish?
important.
Is Nish even?
No,
Is he even
Okay.
here?
He's here.
He's a bit. He's a bit slow. I mean, the internet.
You guys hear me?
I mean, the internet.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, oh yeah, I think that my internet connection's unstable. So I'll just say, yeah, I've been trying to follow along, a lot of talking during these podcasts, and I don't learn enough. But today was rather educational.
All right, perfect. I
you
mean,
hear
that's
me?
what we.
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Was that your final comment, or did you?
Yeah, he said I can hear him. He said he's good.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll just finish things off. We know today was a longer episode, but we hope that these longer episodes, I think our last like really long episode was like the Black Lives Matter one, and so we hope that like these ones are rather educational for those of you who don't know as much about Indian politics. I mean, like I think we all learned something new or like got a new perspective on things in this call. And I mean, that's the point of this podcast. It's like like I said, we're not like we said, like we're not experts on this matter. We say that right in the middle of the intro. We're not here to sway your opinion left one way or right. We're just here having a conversation and hope that you guys can either get a new perspective on things, learn something. If that's like the best case scenario. If you guys learned something you didn't before, like even if it's one of our like with 30 viewers listens, it's fine for us. That's a success. If you're someone who disagrees with us, I'm sorry about that. We're more than willing to have a conversation. But I guess like the baseline of everything that we've said today is we've talked about religious and like political and public health tensions. Is ultimately we all agree that everyone should be treated equally. Like like Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs. We talked about a lot of different religions, and there were like a
Everyone
lot of like
except
hot button issues. Yeah. We hope that no one after this podcast felt targeted. Hope that no one felt like their opinions weren't heard or opinions were subjected. We want everyone to feel that they are treated equally and they're treated and they are their voice or their family's voice or their cultural opinions are heard. Farmers, if you have family who's affected by the farmers' protests, if you have family who's affected by like the religious political wars of like Kashmir and other India and Pakistan and other political things, and you guys want to talk about it, or you guys want to share your opinion, we're more than happy to hear about it. We're more than happy to have you on. We just like wanted to talk about this and hear what we have done from our research. So we hope that everyone enjoyed this podcast. We hope that you guys maybe learned something. Please don't cancel us. Shout out to all the what was I gonna say? Shout out to, like we said, talk about the COVID population, and shout out to all the healthcare workers. Even though the healthcare system in India is a bit, not ideal. Shout out to all the healthcare workers who are working tirelessly, seeing all these patients, seeing all this like difficult time. We hope that everyone around the country is doing okay with everything that's happening, and make sure to stay tuned for our next episode. Follow us on Instagram if you haven't already at Just Like Me Podcast. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe. See you guys next time.